Montana Territory, 1878. The wagon wheel cracked like a gunshot across the empty prairie, and Samuel Crawford knew his daughters would go hungry another night unless he found help soon. He stood beside the broken axle, his young face drawn tight with worry as 5-year-old Emma and 3-year-old Lucy huddled in the wagon bed, their small faces smudged with trail dust. At 25, Sam had already buried one wife and learned the hardest lesson the frontier had to teach. Love was a luxury that got people killed. Better to keep moving, keep surviving, never plant roots deep enough to hurt when they got torn out. "Papa, I am hungry," Lucy whimpered, clutching her cloth doll. Sam pulled off his hat and ran a hand through his dark hair, scanning the empty Montana grasslands stretching toward distant mountains. The sun hung low, painting everything gold and amber, beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. Beautiful and deadly, like everything out here. His wife Sarah had thought the West was romantic too, right up until childbirth fever took her 6 months back. Now he had 2 little girls, a broken wagon, and a homestead claim he was starting to think he would never reach. "I know, sweetheart, just hold on a bit longer." The sound of hoofbeats made his hand drop instinctively to the revolver at his hip. A rider approached from the east, leading a pack mule, and as the figure drew closer, Sam felt his eyebrows rise. Not a man, as he had assumed, but a woman. A large woman in a simple brown dress that had seen better days, sitting her horse with the easy confidence of someone born to the saddle. She wore a battered hat pulled low, and when she drew near enough for him to see her face clearly, he was struck by how young she was despite her substantial size. Maybe 23 or 24, with honey blonde hair escaping from a loose braid and eyes the color of summer sky. "Trouble," she called out, reining in her horse about 10 feet away. Her voice carried a warm, practical tone that somehow made Sam think of fresh bread and Sunday mornings. "Broken axle," Sam replied, keeping his voice neutral. The frontier had taught him to trust no one, especially not strangers appearing out of nowhere. "We will manage." The woman swung down from her saddle with surprising grace for her size and approached the wagon, giving it a professional once-over. "You will manage to freeze to death when the temperature drops tonight maybe. Or you will manage to get picked off by the Sioux hunting party that passed through yesterday if they double back. This is not country for broken wagons and children." Emma peeked over the wagon's side, her blue eyes wide. "Are you an angel?" The woman laughed, a sound like bells that made something twist in Sam's chest. "No, honey, just someone who knows what it is like to be stuck." She turned to Sam, and he found himself looking into those blue eyes, finding intelligence and something sad lurking there. "I am Josephine Atwater. I have a place about 3 miles north, small ranch. Not much, but the barn has space and I can spare some supper." "We do not need charity," Sam said automatically, the words coming out harsher than he intended. His false belief, the wall he had built around himself and his girls, stood firm. Accepting help meant owing someone, and owing someone meant vulnerability, and vulnerability got you hurt or killed. Josephine studied him for a long moment, and Sam felt uncomfortably seen. "Is that pride or stupidity talking, mister? Because your daughters look like they do not care much about either one. They just look cold and hungry." Lucy started crying, and Emma wrapped her arms around her little sister. Sam felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him, the same weight that never lifted, not even in sleep. He was 25 years old and felt ancient, hollowed out by loss and hardship. "Just for tonight," he heard himself say. "I am Sam Crawford." "That is Emma and Lucy." "Just for tonight," Josephine agreed, but something in her tone suggested she did not quite believe it. She moved to examine the wagon more closely, running her hands along the broken axle with the knowing touch of someone who understood machinery. "This is going to need a full day to fix properly. You have got a crack running deeper than it looks." Sam felt frustration rise in his throat. A full day meant falling further behind, meant the good land at his claim site might get taken by someone else, meant using up supplies he could not afford to waste. But Josephine was already unhitching his horses with efficient movements, talking in a low, soothing voice to the animals. "Come on then," she said. "We can leave the wagon here, come back for it tomorrow. Nobody travels this stretch much." They made an odd caravan, Josephine on her sturdy bay mare, Sam riding one of his draft horses bareback with Lucy in front of him, Emma perched behind Josephine and chattering away like they were old friends. The little girl had taken to the stranger immediately, asking 1,000 questions about the ranch, the animals, whether Josephine had any dolls or kittens or candy. Emma, hush, Sam called out. Let Miss Atwater be. She is fine, Josephine said, and Sam could hear the smile in her voice. I like curious children, shows good sense, wanting to know about the world. As they rode through the deepening twilight, Sam studied Josephine's broad back and easy seat in the saddle. She was large, no denying it, but she moved with none of the awkwardness he might have expected. There was a solidness to her, something reassuring, and she handled Emma's endless questions with patience he had not seen in anyone since Sarah died. The thought of his wife sent the familiar spike of guilt and grief through his chest. Sarah had been delicate, beautiful in a fragile way, and the West had broken her like it broke everything gentle. He had failed to protect her. That was the truth he carried every day. He was not strong enough to keep the people he loved safe. Better not to love at all. Josephine's ranch appeared as the last light bled from the sky. It was modest, a one-room cabin with a lean-to addition, a small barn, and a corral holding 4 horses and a handful of cattle. But everything looked well-maintained, the fences straight, the barn door hung true. This was a place someone cared about, worked hard for. Not much to look at, Josephine said, dismounting, but it is mine. Inherited it from my uncle last year. He took me in when. She paused, and Sam caught a flash of old pain crossing her face. Well, when I needed taking in. She did not elaborate, and Sam did not ask. Everyone out here had stories they did not tell. Inside, the cabin was simple but clean. A large stone fireplace dominated one wall, and the smell of wood smoke and herbs hung in the air. Josephine moved around the space with the ease of someone completely at home, stoking the fire, setting a pot to heat, slicing bread and cheese for the girls. Sam stood awkwardly by the door, holding his hat, uncertain of his place. Sit down before you wear a hole in the floor, Josephine said without turning around. You look like a horse ready to bolt. We are not staying long, Sam said, but he sat at the rough wooden table anyway. Lucy crawled immediately into his lap, exhausted and overwhelmed. Papa, I like this place, Emma announced, accepting a thick slice of bread from Josephine. It smells good. Josephine laughed. That is lavender. I hang it to dry in the summer. My mother used to do the same. Her face softened with memory, back in Ohio before. Again, she did not finish, and Sam found himself curious despite his determination to remain distant. What had brought Josephine Atwater to Montana Territory, to this small ranch in the middle of nowhere? What was her story? As if reading his thoughts, Josephine met his eyes across the cabin. We have all got our reasons for being out here, I suppose. The frontier does not ask too many questions about where we came from. No, Sam agreed quietly, it surely does not. They ate in companionable silence, broken only by the girls' tired murmuring. The stew Josephine served was rich and hearty, full of vegetables and meat, the best meal they had eaten in weeks. Sam watched his daughters eat their fill, felt some of the constant tension in his shoulders ease just slightly. They were safe tonight at least, warm and fed. After supper, Josephine produced blankets and made up a pallet near the fire for the girls. Emma and Lucy burrowed into the softness with sighs of contentment, and within minutes both were asleep. Sam stood watching them, his heart doing that painful squeeze it always did when he looked at their small, vulnerable faces. They are beautiful girls, Josephine said softly, coming to stand beside him. You are doing a good job with them. Am I? The words came out bitter. Their mother is dead because I brought her out here, and I am dragging them across Montana to a homestead claim I might not even be able to prove up. Some father. You are here, you are trying, that counts for more than you think. Sam turned to look at her, this strange woman who had appeared out of nowhere and taken them in without hesitation. Up close he could see the fine lines around her eyes, the weariness that matched his own. She was younger than he had first thought, probably just 23 or 24, but she had the bearing of someone who had lived through hard times and survived. Why did you help us? He asked. Josephine was quiet for a long moment, her eyes on the sleeping girls. Because I know what it is like to be alone and desperate, and because your daughters looked at me like I was not invisible. Her voice caught slightly. People have a way of looking through me, most times. Too big, too plain, too much of everything they do not want to see. The raw honesty in her words struck Sam like a physical blow. He saw the pain she carried, recognized it as a mirror to his own. She thought herself unworthy of being truly seen, just as he believed himself unworthy of being loved. Two wounded souls trying to survive in an unforgiving land. I see you, he said, and meant it. Josephine's eyes widened slightly, a flush creeping up her neck. For a moment something passed between them, a recognition of shared loneliness, of walls built high against hurt. Then she looked away, busying herself with banking the fire. "You can sleep in the lean-to," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "There is a cot set up and blankets. It is not much, but it is warm enough." Sam wanted to say something more, to acknowledge the strange connection he felt forming, but his old defenses slammed back into place. This was dangerous. Feeling anything for anyone was dangerous. He had learned that lesson in blood and grief. "Thank you," he said formally. "We will be gone by tomorrow afternoon, once the wagon is fixed." "Of course," Josephine said, not looking at him. "Just neighbors helping neighbors. That is how we survive out here." But as Sam lay on the cot in the lean-to that night, listening to the wind whisper across the Montana prairie, he could not stop thinking about blue eyes and honest words, about the way Josephine had moved through her small cabin, like a woman who had made peace with solitude, but might secretly hope for something more. He could not afford to hope. Hope was another luxury the frontier did not allow. He fell asleep telling himself that, even as his last waking thought was of Josephine's laugh, bright as bells in the gathering dark. Morning came cold and clear, frost glittering on the grass like scattered diamonds. Sam woke to the smell of coffee and frying bacon, and for a disorienting moment thought he was back home, that Sarah was cooking breakfast, that the last terrible months had been nothing but a nightmare. Then reality settled back over him, heavy as always. He found Josephine and his daughters in the cabin, Emma and Lucy already dressed and helping set the table. The scene struck him with unexpected force. This woman and his children moving around each other with easy familiarity, as if they had known each other for years instead of hours. Josephine was teaching Emma how to pour coffee without spilling, her large hands guiding the little girl's smaller ones with infinite patience. "There you go, careful now, that is it, you are doing fine." Emma beamed with pride, and Sam felt something crack in his chest. "Papa," Lucy squealed, launching herself at him. "Miss Josie makes pancakes that look like horses." "Miss Josie," Sam raised an eyebrow at Josephine, who shrugged with a slight smile. "Josephine is a mouthful for little ones." "Josie works just fine," she flipped a pancake with practiced ease. "I hope you are hungry, I cooked enough for a cattle crew." They ate together at the small table, and Sam noticed how Josephine made sure the girls had plenty before serving herself, how she listened to their chatter with genuine interest. She asked Emma about her cloth doll, complimented Lucy's attempt to braid her own hair, treated them like they mattered. "We should get to that wagon," Sam said when breakfast was finished, eager to escape the domestic intimacy that felt both wonderful and terrifying. "I have taken enough of your time." "I will ride out with you," Josephine said. "You will need help with the repair, and I have got tools you will need." Sam wanted to refuse, to insist he could manage alone, but the truth was he did need help. The wagon axle would require 2 people to fix properly, so he swallowed his pride and nodded. "Emma, Lucy, you can stay here," Josephine said. "I have got a mama cat in the barn with new kittens. I was going to show you after breakfast." The girls erupted in excitement, and Sam felt his protests die unspoken. The prospect of keeping 2 small children entertained while trying to repair a wagon was daunting, and they would be safe here, he could see that. Josephine's ranch was isolated but well kept, no obvious threats. "Just for a few hours," he agreed. Josephine's smile was warm. "Take all the time you need. We will be fine here, will we not, girls?" Emma and Lucy nodded enthusiastically, already pulling on Josephine's hands, begging to see the kittens. Sam watched them go, feeling that strange pang in his chest again. His daughters had been so quiet, so subdued since their mother died. It hurt to see them laughing again, even as it gave him a fierce, unexpected joy. The ride back to the wagon was quiet at first, Sam and Josephine moving through the morning mist like ghosts. The prairie stretched endlessly around them, golden grass rippling in waves, mountains standing sentinel on the horizon. It was beautiful country, harsh but honest, and Sam had learned to appreciate that honesty even as it broke his heart. "Your girls are wonderful," Josephine said finally. "Emma has her mother's eyes, I think." Sam nodded, throat tight. Sarah's eyes, Lucy does not remember her much. It has only been 6 months. "That must be hard for all of you." "Hard does not begin to cover it." The words came out rougher than he intended. "I brought Sarah out here thinking we could make a life, build something solid. She got pregnant with Lucy right after we arrived, and she never really recovered from that birth. Too many complications. Then when we decided to move to the homestead claim, she insisted on coming even though she was not strong enough. She got a fever on the trail, and it took her in 3 days. He had not meant to say so much, had not talked about Sarah's death with anyone, but something about Josephine's quiet presence loosened the words from where he had kept them locked away. "You blame yourself," Josephine said, and it was not a question. "I should. It was my dream that killed her, my ambition, my certainty that I could make it work." Sam stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. "The frontier is no place for love, no place for soft hearts. I should have known that." "So you think the answer is to stop loving, to keep yourself and your daughters isolated, never letting anyone close?" Josephine's voice was gentle but firm. "That is not protection, Sam. That is just a different kind of death." Her words hit too close to home, and Sam felt his defenses rise. "What would you know about it? You are out here alone, same as me. Running from something or someone, I would wager." He expected her to get angry, to retreat into her own walls. Instead, Josephine just looked sad. "You are right, I am running in a way. Running from every person in Ohio who looked at me and saw only my size, who made it clear I was too much of everything good women are supposed to be delicate and light about. I got fat after my parents died, and people treated me like I had committed some kind of sin. The man I thought loved me, he left me at the altar, said he could not bear the embarrassment of having a wife who looked like me." Sam felt rage flash through him, hot and protective. "He was a fool." "Maybe, but he was not wrong about how the world sees me." Josephine shrugged, but Sam could see the hurt beneath her practical acceptance. "My uncle's letter offering me this place came right after that. He said he needed help on the ranch, said there was room for me out here. I think he just knew I needed somewhere to disappear to." "You did not disappear," Sam said. "You are building something real." "Alone," Josephine pointed out. "Same as you plan to. We are both so busy protecting ourselves from hurt that we cannot see what we might be missing." They reached the wagon then, saving Sam from having to respond. The broken axle looked no better in daylight, but with Josephine's help and tools, the work went faster than he had hoped. She knew her way around wagon repairs, working with the easy competence of someone who had learned through necessity. They fell into a rhythm, anticipating each other's needs, passing tools back and forth with few words needed. It felt good working alongside someone. Sam had forgotten the simple pleasure of shared labor. Josephine hummed while she worked, a low tune that reminded him of hymns his mother used to sing. The sun climbed higher, warming the prairie, and Sam found himself relaxing despite his determination to stay guarded. "You are good at this," he said as they fitted the repaired axle back into place. "The ranch work, I mean. Taking care of things." "Had to be. My uncle was already sick when I got here, though he hid it well. He taught me what he could before the cancer took him, but mostly I learned by doing and failing. I have failed at plenty," she smiled wryly, "but the good thing about being out here is that nobody is watching when you mess up. You just fix it and keep going." "Is that enough for you? Just keeping going?" Josephine paused, meeting his eyes. "It was. Until yesterday, I thought it was. But then your daughters looked at me like I was someone who mattered, and I remembered what it felt like to be part of something bigger than just survival." The honesty in her words made Sam's chest ache. He saw the loneliness in her, recognized it as the twin to his own. For months he had told himself that isolation was safety, that closing his heart was wisdom. But looking at Josephine now, her face open and vulnerable, he wondered if he had been wrong. "We should get back," he said, because it was easier than examining the feelings stirring in him. "The girls will be wondering where we are." They rode back to the ranch in thoughtful silence, the repaired wagon rattling along behind Sam's horses. When they crested the last rise, Sam could see Emma and Lucy playing in the yard, chasing each other and laughing. The sound of their laughter carried on the wind, and Sam felt tears prick his eyes. When had they last laughed like that? When had he last heard joy instead of fear in their voices? Emma spotted them first. "Papa, Miss Josie, come see the kittens, there are 6 of them." The next hours passed in a blur of childish excitement, tiny kittens mewing and crawling over small laps, Emma and Lucy's faces bright with wonder. Josephine sat in the middle of it all, smiling as she answered questions and prevented overeager hands from squeezing too hard. Sam watched from the barn doorway, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. This was what he had wanted for his daughters, he realized, not just survival, but moments of simple happiness. The kind of childhood memories they could carry with them, bright spots in the hard frontier life they were living. Sarah would have wanted this for them too. The thought of his dead wife brought the familiar guilt crashing back. What right did he have to feel something for another woman, to imagine even for a moment that there could be softness in his life again? Sarah had been dead only 6 months. He should be mourning, not noticing the way sunlight caught in Josephine's blonde hair, not thinking about her laugh or the gentle way she touched his daughters' heads. "We need to go," he said abruptly, standing up. "It is getting late, and we have lost too much time already." Emma's face fell. "But Papa, can we not stay just one more night?" "Please. We have imposed enough on Miss Atwater's hospitality." "It is no imposition," Josephine said quietly. "You are welcome to stay." But Sam could hear the hurt beneath her careful politeness, knew she had felt his sudden withdrawal. He was hurting her, and he hated himself for it, but the alternative was worse. The alternative was opening himself up to loss again, to the devastating possibility of caring and losing, of failing to protect someone else he loved. Better to leave now, before the connection deepened any further. "Thank you for everything," he said formally. "We will be on our way." Lucy started crying, and Emma's lower lip trembled. They did not want to leave, did not understand why they had to go when they had been so happy here. Sam felt like the worst father in the world as he gathered their few belongings and herded his weeping daughters toward the wagon. Josephine stood in the doorway of her cabin, her face carefully neutral, but Sam could see the hurt in her eyes. She had offered them kindness, offered them a glimpse of something better, and he was throwing it back at her like it meant nothing. "Safe travels," she said. "I hope your homestead is everything you want it to be." Sam climbed onto the wagon seat, Emma and Lucy huddled behind him, still crying. He flicked the reins and the horses started forward. He did not look back, could not bear to see Josephine standing alone in front of her small cabin, watching them leave. They made it about 2 miles before Emma said, "Papa, why did we have to leave? Miss Josie was nice, she made us feel safe." "We are not looking for safe," Sam said. "We are looking for our own place, our own land." "But why can we not have both?" Emma asked, with the simple logic of childhood. "Why can we not have our own place and people who make us feel safe?" Sam had no answer for that. They camped that night on the open prairie, and Sam lay awake listening to his daughters sleep fitfully, their faces still tear-stained. The stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns, cold and distant, and Sam felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. He had thought he was protecting them by keeping them isolated, by teaching them not to depend on anyone. But what if he was wrong? What if he was teaching them to be afraid of the very things that made life worth living? The homestead claim was still 2 weeks away. 2 weeks of hard travel, of cold camps and short rations, of Emma and Lucy asking when they could see Miss Josie again. Sam told himself he had done the right thing, the smart thing. He told himself the ache in his chest was just indigestion, not regret. He almost believed it. 5 days later, disaster struck. They were fording a creek swollen with snowmelt when the wagon hit a hidden rock. The impact threw Lucy clear, and Sam watched in horror as his 3-year-old daughter hit the water and was swept downstream by the current. He did not think, just reacted. He dove from the wagon, swimming hard against the current, his heart screaming in his chest. Lucy's small head bobbed in and out of view, her terrified cries cutting through the rush of water. Sam pushed himself harder than he ever had, his lungs burning, arms aching. He caught her just before the creek narrowed into rapids. His fingers closed around her dress, and he hauled her against his chest, feeling her small body shaking with cold and fear. He struggled to shore, collapsing on the bank with Lucy clutching him like she would never let go. Emma was screaming on the far bank, and the wagon was stuck in the middle of the creek, water pouring through the bed. Sam held Lucy and shook, realizing how close he had come to losing her. Another few seconds and she would have been swept into the rapids, battered on rocks, drowned in the cold mountain water. He could not do this alone. The truth hit him with devastating clarity. He could not keep his daughters safe by himself, could not handle every crisis, could not be everything they needed. His pride, his stubborn insistence on independence, was going to get one or both of them killed. He thought of Josephine, of her quiet competence and steady presence. He thought of the way she had looked at his daughters, the way she had made them laugh. He thought of her ranch, small but solid, a real home in the wilderness. He thought of her eyes, sad and hopeful at once, watching him leave, Papa, I am cold, Lucy whimpered. Sam held her closer, making a decision that terrified him more than any flooded creek. I know, sweetheart. We are going to get you warm. We are going to go somewhere safe. Miss Josie's house, Emma called from across the creek, hope brightening her voice. Yes, Sam said, and felt something ease in his chest even as fear clutched his heart. We are going back to Miss Josie's house. It took the better part of the day to get the wagon out of the creek and turned around. By the time they started back toward Josephine's ranch, Lucy was feverish and coughing, Emma was exhausted, and Sam was running on pure determination. The temperature dropped as evening came on, and Sam wrapped both girls in every blanket he had, urging the horses faster. Please let her take us back. He prayed to a God he was not sure he believed in anymore. Please let me not be too late to fix this. Josephine's cabin appeared just as full dark settled over the prairie. Lamplight glowed in the windows, warm and welcoming, and Sam felt his throat close with emotion. He pulled the wagon to a stop and climbed down, lifting Lucy's limp form in his arms. The cabin door opened, and Josephine stood silhouetted against the light. She took one look at them and moved into action, all efficiency and purpose. Lucy fell in a creek, Sam said, his voice rough. She is running a fever. I did not know where else to go. Inside, quickly, Josephine said, holding the door wide. Emma, come on, sweetheart, let us get you all warm. Within minutes, Josephine had Lucy stripped out of her wet clothes and wrapped in dry blankets by the fire. She brewed something that smelled of herbs and made Lucy drink it despite the little girl's protests. Her hands moved with practiced confidence, checking Lucy's temperature, listening to her breathing, murmuring soothing words. She will be all right, Josephine said finally, looking up at Sam. But she needs rest and warmth and careful watching for the next day or two. Pneumonia is the real danger with cold water like that. Sam nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He had failed again, let his daughter get hurt through his own stubborn pride. He was useless, worthless, incapable of keeping the people he loved safe. Sam, Josephine's voice was firm, and he looked up to find her watching him with those knowing blue eyes. This was an accident, you saved her. She is alive because you were fast and brave. Stop beating yourself up for not being perfect. I should not have left, he said. I should have stayed here where it was safe. But I was scared. Scared of what? Of this, he gestured helplessly between them, of feeling something again, of losing someone again. Sarah died because I brought her out here and I cannot. His voice broke. I cannot fail someone else I love. Josephine crossed to him, and Sam found himself looking up into her face at the compassion and understanding written there. She cupped his cheek with one large, gentle hand. You are not failing, Sam. You are trying so hard to do everything right that you have forgotten it is all right to need help. It is all right to let people in, even if it is scary, especially if it is scary. What if something happens to you? The question came out raw, terrified. What if I let myself care and then lose you too? What if you do not let yourself care and miss out on something real, something good? Josephine's thumb brushed across his cheekbone, and Sam felt something in him break open. I am scared too, Sam. I am terrified. But when you and the girls left, I realized being alone and safe was not enough anymore. I want more. I want a family, people to care for, someone to build a life with. And I think maybe you want that too. Sam looked at his daughters, Emma sitting close to Lucy, both of them watching him with wide eyes. He looked at Josephine, solid and real, and offering him something he had thought he could never have again. He thought about the weeks ahead if he kept running, the isolation and fear, the slow withering of his heart until there was nothing left but survival. And he thought about what it might be like to stay, to build something here with this woman who saw his brokenness and did not flinch away. To give his daughters a home, a mother figure, stability and love, to let himself hope again. I do, he whispered. I want that so much it scares me to death. Josephine smiled, and it was like sunrise breaking over the prairie. Then stay. Stay and let us figure this out together. Sam pulled her into his arms, feeling her solid warmth, the steady beat of her heart. Emma and Lucy made happy sounds, and Sam felt tears streaming down his face, washing away months of grief and fear. It did not mean he would never be scared again, would never worry about loss and failure, but maybe he did not have to face it alone. Can Miss Josie be our mama? Lucy asked from her nest of blankets, her small voice hopeful despite her fever. Sam looked at Josephine, saw the naked longing on her face, the way she looked at his daughters like they were precious beyond measure. He saw a future unfolding, difficult and uncertain, but bright with possibility. "Would you want that?" he asked Josephine. "Would you want us, all of us, with all our mess and grief and complications?" "More than anything," Josephine said, and her eyes were shining with tears. "More than anything in this world." Emma scrambled over to them, wrapping her small arms around Josephine's waist. "Please be our mama. Papa is sad all the time, and we miss having a mama so much." "I will be whatever you need me to be," Josephine said, gathering Emma close, "for all of you." Sam leaned in and kissed her, soft and tentative, a promise rather than a declaration. Josephine kissed him back, and it tasted like hope, like second chances, like everything the frontier had tried to teach him was impossible. When they pulled apart, Lucy was smiling despite her fever, and Emma was bouncing with excitement. "Does this mean we are staying?" the little girl asked. "Yes," Sam said, and felt the rightness of it settle into his bones. "We are staying." The next days passed in a blur of tending Lucy's illness, settling into the rhythms of the ranch, and learning to be a family. Sam worked alongside Josephine, mending fences and caring for livestock, marveling at her competence and strength. She taught him things about running a ranch that his homestead claim would never have taught him, showed him that accepting help was not weakness but wisdom. Emma and Lucy bloomed under Josephine's care. She told them stories and taught them songs, showed them how to gather eggs and feed the chickens, made them feel valued and important. And slowly, painfully, Sam learned to let go of his guilt over Sarah. He would always miss her, always carry the scar of her loss, but Josephine helped him see that loving again was not betrayal. It was survival of a different kind, the survival of the heart and spirit. 3 weeks after their return, as they sat together by the fire after the girls were asleep, Sam took Josephine's hand. "I want to do this right," he said. "I want to marry you proper, make this legal and real." Josephine's eyes widened. "Are you sure? It has only been a few weeks, Sam." "You do not have to rush into anything." "I am not rushing, I am choosing. I am choosing to believe that good things can happen even out here. I am choosing to trust that we can build something that lasts." He squeezed her hand. "I am choosing you, Josie, if you will have me." Tears spilled down Josephine's cheeks, and she nodded, unable to speak. Sam pulled her close, and they sat there in the firelight, holding each other, two wounded souls who had found healing in the last place they expected. They were married a month later by a traveling preacher, with Emma and Lucy as witnesses and half a dozen neighboring ranchers in attendance. Josephine wore a simple dress of pale blue that matched her eyes, and Sam wore his best shirt and a new string tie. Emma and Lucy scattered wildflowers they had picked that morning, their faces shining with happiness. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Sam kissed Josephine in front of God and the Montana Territory and everyone, claiming her as his own and himself as hers. The assembled ranchers cheered, and the girls hugged them both, and Sam felt something he had not felt since before Sarah died, complete, utter joy. The reception was held at the ranch, with music and dancing and food contributed by neighbors who were becoming friends. Sam danced with Josephine, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms despite her size, how right it felt to hold her and sway to the fiddle music. Later, he danced with Emma and Lucy, spinning them until they shrieked with laughter. As the sun set over the prairie, painting everything gold and amber, Sam stood with his arm around his new wife, watching his daughters play with the other ranch children. This was what he had come west for, he realized. Not just land or independence, but this, family, community, belonging, love that was strong enough to survive the harsh frontier. "Happy?" Josephine asked, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Happier than I ever thought I could be again," Sam admitted. "You saved us, Josie. You saved all three of us." "We saved each other," Josephine corrected. "That is how it works when you stop trying to do everything alone." Sam smiled and pulled her closer. She was right. He had learned that the frontier was not just a place of isolation and loss. It was also a place where people could find each other, where broken pieces could be fitted together into something new and strong. Where love could take root even in hard ground and grow into something beautiful. Lucy came running up, followed by Emma. "Mama Josie, Papa, can we have some cake?" Josephine laughed, the sound like bells, like joy, like home. "Of course, sweethearts, this is a celebration." As they walked back to the cabin together, Sam's daughters holding Josephine's hands, Sam felt the last of his fear and guilt slip away. He had been so wrong about the frontier, about love, about what it meant to survive. survival was not about isolation or emotional distance. It was about having the courage to stay, to connect, to build something worth protecting. That night after the guests had left and the girls were asleep in their new loft bedroom, Sam and Josephine stood together on the porch, looking out at the star-filled Montana sky. The prairie stretched endlessly around them, wild and beautiful, full of possibility. "I keep thinking I am going to wake up and find this is all a dream," Sam said quietly. "That I am still in that broken wagon, alone and scared, convincing myself I do not need anyone." "It is real," Josephine assured him. "We are real. This life we are building is real." "I know. He struggled to find the words. "I spent so long believing that loving someone meant losing them, that the only way to protect myself and the girls was to stay closed off. You showed me I was wrong. You showed me that love is not the weakness I thought it was." "Love is the strongest thing there is," Josephine said. "It is what makes us brave enough to keep going when everything is hard. It is what makes the frontier feel like home instead of exile." Sam pulled her close, kissing her deeply, pouring everything he felt into it. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up on me, for seeing past my walls and stubbornness, for loving my daughters like they are your own." "They are my own," Josephine said firmly. "And you are mine. That is what family means. We choose each other every day, no matter what comes." They stood there together, looking out at their land, their home, their future. Inside the cabin, Sam's daughters slept safely. In the barn, their animals were secure. On the horizon, the mountains stood eternal. And in Sam's heart, where there had been only grief and fear, there was now love and hope and the sweet promise of tomorrow. He had come to Montana territory thinking he could outrun pain, that isolation was the same as strength. But Josephine had taught him different. She had shown him that the truest strength was in opening your heart, in choosing to love even when it was terrifying, in building a family and a life worth living. The frontier was still harsh, still unforgiving. There would be hard winters and dry summers, cattle losses and lean times, but they would face it together as a family, and that made all the difference. "Come on," Josephine said, tugging his hand. "It is late, and tomorrow starts early." Sam followed her inside, into the warmth and light of their home. He checked on Emma and Lucy one more time, tucking blankets around their small shoulders, pressing kisses to their foreheads. Then he climbed into bed beside his wife, pulling her close, marveling at how perfectly they fit together. "I love you, Josie," he whispered into the darkness. "I know it is fast, but it is true." "I love you." "I love you too," she whispered back. "I have from the moment you let me in. Thank you for being brave enough to choose love instead of fear." Sam fell asleep with his arm around Josephine, his heart full and peaceful for the first time in as long as he could remember. Outside, the Montana wind sang across the prairie, carrying the promise of spring, of new beginnings, of love that had been tested by the frontier and found strong enough to survive. He had learned the hardest lesson the West had to teach. That the truly brave did not run from love, did not hide from connection. They stood and fought for it, built it brick by brick, chose it again and again, even when it was terrifying. And in return, they received something more precious than all the homestead claims in the territory: a family, a home, a love that would last through whatever the frontier threw at them. The cowboy had learned to smile again. And when his little girl asked if the woman who saved them could be their mama, he had said yes with his whole heart, because sometimes the answer to survival was not isolation but love. Sometimes the strongest thing you could do was take someone's hand and build something together, and that made all the difference in the world.